Hey guys, what's going on? Vile Self here, and I've got some Destiny multiplayer gameplay from the alpha. I've got lots of gameplay recorded from Destiny single player, co-op, multiplayer stuff, so you'll probably be seeing some more of that on my channel in the upcoming weeks. Hope you guys enjoy it. The topic for this commentary was suggested by a pal of mine, Mufta, who I just want to say right off the bat, if you don't know who Mufta is, you should check out his YouTube channel. Follow him on Twitter. He's got one of the most entertaining channels on YouTube that I watch personally. And I thought this was a great topic for a commentary. So full credit goes to him for this. So yeah, I'm going to talk about my first experience getting truly immersed in a game, in a video game. And I mean, there's a few games that come to mind, you know, from my childhood, such as, you know, GoldenEye and Ocarina of Time, you know, for the N64, or you know, Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. But there's one game that stands out among the rest. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that game, but just to go back a little bit. I grew up on horror films. Everything from, you know, Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Leprechaun, Pumpkinhead, you know, Wolfmen, Dracula, Frankenstein, zombies, all of that stuff. Grew up on that from when I was a little kid, all the way to this day. I still love that stuff. I'm a big horror fan, always have been. And zombies were always among my favorites. Dead Alive, Evil Dead, Night of the Living Dead, just to name a few of some of the movies that I adored as a kid. The game that sucked me in when I was a kid, the first game that I remember truly getting immersed into was this game right here, Resident Evil. It was released back in 1996. I was 12 years old at the time, and at this point in time, I was still playing my Super Nintendo and my Sega Genesis, and I was anticipating the release of Nintendo 64, and you know, that's pretty much all I cared about from a gaming standpoint. And I got my N64 for Christmas that year, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I knew about the PlayStation brand, but you know, none of my friends had it, and you know, I was a subscriber to Nintendo Power, so I didn't really hear or learn much about PlayStation. It just kind of was off my radar, so I didn't know too much about it. So anyways, one day my mom was heading over to her friend's house, and she brought me along, and she said they have video games there and I'm allowed to play them. So I was like, okay, cool. So we arrive at the house, and I go into the living room, and I find a PlayStation sitting on the floor in front of the TV. So I booted it up to try it out for the very first time. I had no idea what was inside. You know, I didn't even care what game was inside. I was just excited to try this new console, which I knew very little about. So the game booted up, and I was immediately taken back. I remember just being in awe at the game. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I just had to have it. I was addicted right away. I was immediately addicted. And you know, I went home and I called my dad and I said, Dad, I want this PlayStation. You know, I need Resident Evil. You know, I need to play. It's my favorite game. Blah blah blah. And you know, I totally bigged it up to him. And you know, my dad was good to me like that. So you know, he went out and he bought me a PlayStation, and with a few games, including Resident Evil. So I got so immersed into that game, it almost felt like a drug. Like, obviously, I wasn't doing drugs at 12 years old, 13 years old. But if I had to describe what a drug felt like, it was that game, because it was on my mind all the time. It's all I wanted to play. And anytime I wanted to play video games, that's what was taking my time up. I played other games here and there, but Resident Evil was my main game. It was a hard game for me. It took me a while to beat Resident Evil. I got stuck on it. Resident Evil was the first, and to this day, only game I ever bought a strategy guide for. And even the strategy guide couldn't help me. I got stuck on one part that even the strategy guide couldn't help me. I actually had to call the Capcom hotline and get them to help me with one of the parts in Resident Evil, because I just couldn't figure it out. And none of my friends can figure it out. We're all idiots. And now that I think back to it, I remember the part too. But now that we think back to it, we don't understand how we just didn't get it. But anyways, I was immersed. I was, you know, zombies were on my mind all the time because of that. I already liked zombies before, but this just amplified it. I was drawing zombies on all my school paperwork, and I was getting in trouble from my teachers. I was painting all my little Lego men into zombies. You know, I was painting my own face to look like a zombie. Me and my friends were making plans to make a zombie movie ourselves. You know, and all that came from the inspiration that Resident Evil gave me as a kid. The game was just frightening. I remember playing it and being scared every time I walked into a new room, and it would show that first-person view of the door creaking open, and I would just tremble in fear of what was awaiting me on the other side. And, you know, I was just immersed in that game. I was genuinely scared and genuinely tried hard to survive. You know, the game, I don't want to say it felt real to me because, you know, holding a controller in your hand and watching a TV, and at that time I was playing on like maybe a 22-inch, 23-inch TV that, you know, one of those fat tube TVs. So it's not like I was in this like high definition 3D experience or anything like that, but I still felt immersed. I still felt like the survival horror of that game totally worked, and I was sucked into it. The game was well received, you know, not only by me, but basically by the masses, as you probably already know, but it went on to become a blockbuster franchise in an array of mediums, not limited to gaming, but movies, comics, action figures, and all sorts of things. Maybe that's it. I don't know really anything else other than movies, comics, action figures, and games. But either way, when you say Resident Evil, people know what you're talking about. And it all started with this one game. And as far as gaming goes, I think Resident Evil put a stamp on the survival horror brand and basically paved the way for several new franchises to come. I can't say it was the first survival horror game, but I will say it was probably the most definitive one for that time. And like I said, it paved the way for games like Dino Crisis and Parasite Eve and Silent Hill and many others to follow. And to this day, the survival horror brand of gaming is still booming. People still love it, and it's a, you know, preferred style of game. There's lots of survival horror games coming out these days. The Evil Within, Dying Light, Dead Island, you know, just to name a few. So I think Resident Evil is the first game I ever truly got sucked into. The first game that spoke to me as an individual and appealed to my childhood horror fascination. And yeah, that's about it for that. Resident Evil is my game. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know, you know, what game from your childhood or even of recent times, of any time, what game got you the most immersed into the game? What game made you just feel like you were there and made you a part of that game? And something that connected with you on more than just a visual level, you know, more than just a, you know, sitting down and playing kind of level. Something that actually spoke to you, spoke to your personality. Tell me about it. Did any games ever give you that feeling? Because Resident Evil was the first game to ever do that to me. Like I said, there was other games that I got immersed into, like Ocarina of Time. That was a deep game too, but it didn't really connect to me on a personality level like Resident Evil did, because I was already a huge fan of zombies and horror. So I hope you enjoyed this commentary, and I would like to hear from anyone watching, you know, tell me what the first game is that you got completely sucked into. I want you guys to also make sure to check out Moof's channel, make sure to follow him on Twitter, and make sure to follow me on Twitter too, @VileSelf. So if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching. I'm just going to let this video play out for a bit. I do have lots of Destiny gameplay recorded, you know, single player, multiplayer, co-op, all kinds of stuff. So for my next few commentaries, at least for a while, I'm probably going to be using Destiny gameplay rather than Call of Duty gameplay, just to switch it up a bit. I was using a lot of Call of Duty gameplay on my channel, and I know people like watching Call of Duty and stuff like that. It's definitely a popular thing to watch. But I thought it would change it up a bit, and Destiny's definitely a good game. If you guys were playing the alpha, I'm sure you guys agree. If not, the beta is coming out next month, so make sure you pre-order the game so you can get in on the beta and try it out for yourselves. I think this game is going to be a big game, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. And just based on the alpha alone, it's got a lot of people hooked. So I don't know, I can't really say much more good things about that. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm just going to let this video play out. VileSelf out.
Zone C neutralized. Zone C secure. One minute. You've got 30 seconds. Only 10 seconds left. Zone B lost. A single victory doesn't win a war, but it's a start. Good work.